Welcome back to the Arash Markazi Show, presented by the Sporting Tribune on the Mightier 1090 ESPN Radio in Southern California, 98.5 The Bet in Las Vegas, and the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760 in Hawaii. Listen, you can call our hotline, 310-400-0340, or you could drop us a line. We're at Sporting Trib. And that's on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, where you can find our show every morning. So, folks, a lot of easy ways to contact us. Let's head out to the Circa Sports guest hotline right now. And joining us, our good friend right now in San Diego, Costa Mesa, all over, the Sporting Tribunes, Fernando Ramirez. Fernando, how are you?
Arash, thank you so much for having me on again. It's been a while. But yeah, it's pretty hot out here. I'm not going to complain like I'm in Florida or anything like that because I've seen it's even worse out there. But pretty hot when you can tell. I'm a little sunburned right here, but definitely a good time. Thank you again for having me on.
Listen, you're going to be on regularly now as we got football season and the end of baseball. Let's start with baseball. And I know this is surprising because we're going to talk about the Chargers, but you were at the Padres game, the series against Pittsburgh, and you wrote a fantastic story for the Sporting Tribune, effectively saying we're at the point in the season, and again, a lot of fans may have already given up 5 games below 500. What put into context what's happened with the Padres this season, and is there hope that as we get towards the trade deadline that they can maybe turn things around?
Well, I mean, honestly, I think fans are just going to the games to get drunk now because they're drunk in their sorrows.
To do it.
Well, it's been a rough season. It's just like there's a glimmer of hope. You're like, oh, here it goes. And then bang, okay, they hit another slump. They just went 1-2 against the Pittsburgh Pirates, like who had lost, I think, 13 out of 17 before heading into the series and had swept the Padres in Pittsburgh. So it's just been a whirlwind for them. You don't know what to make of it. I mean, Machado, Tatis, Soto, they're all saying as long as we start winning, if we can win one, we'll kind of get it going. Well, one, like, okay, you won one, but then you lose the next one. I mean, a couple of days ago, they had won 14-3, and then the next day they come out and they lose 2-0. Like you need to be more consistent, and that's what they haven't found here is consistently. Cronenworth, 7-year contract, he hasn't been worth it. Bogarts looks kind of like a bust right now, so of a signing. And it just it's not materializing. They don't have any good relievers. And for the trade deadline, they say that they want to be buyers. They don't want to be sellers. But you kind of have to look at it. And maybe Blake Snell and Josh Hader should be on the way out, fix the farm system, get some pieces. But it sounds like AJ Preller and the team are going to stick with it and see what they can do moving forward with these last few games.
I will add this because I wanted to ask you about this too, Fernando, because they made the huge trade for Juan Soto and they gave up now number 4 overall prospect James Wood, Robert Hassel, who's a top 100 prospect, Mackenzie Gore, who's been pitching well, and CJ Abrams, who's now been balling the past couple of weeks. They gave up a lot, and they might not even sign Juan Soto long term. So I do get why they would want to buy because they're like, well, we're 6 games out of the wild card or whatever, and it's like, we did all that for Soto. Jackson Merrill looks fantastic in the minors. It's one guy, but
Ethan Salas,
the catcher, the catcher's legit. 17, whatever, and making his appearance in Double-A or Single-A.
If this was soccer, by the way, he'd already be in the major leagues and he'd already be ready to go. Yeah. That's just how crazy baseball is and how many steps there are to make it all the way up.
But I wanted to ask you, what is the percentage you think? Because realistically, we look at the standings, they're like, they should be sellers, right? Blake Snell might win the Cy Young. Like, he's been pitching excellent. Hader's been great, the one good reliever they have. But everything else hasn't been great, right? So what is the percentage they do sell? Because, it's still 6 games back. There's like a 10% chance they make the playoffs.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they just stayed the course and maybe those guys leave in free agency. That's what it kind of it's just crazy to see everything that has kind of happened. Like you mentioned, I mean, they've given up so much, and it even looks like Juan Soto pretty soon is probably going to be more of a DH. He's more of a liability sometimes in the outfield. I mean, last year we all saw he lost a ball in the sun. This year he's done that a couple of times as well. It just feels like they may move him to DH. So do you really want to pay a DH $500 million? But I mean, they have their building block. They have Machado, they have Tatis and Soto. That's a good building block to have, but can they get him re-signed? That's going to be the huge question. But if not, that trade just looks terrible. Without making the playoffs and everything, that trade just looks terrible, and it looks one-sided for the Nationals. But I just don't see. I think they're going to hold out hope until officially says, until ESPN posts the picture, eliminated, not making the postseason. I just don't think they're. I think they think that they can still make it. They have all the talent in the world, but the problem is their guys just aren't hitting. The last year when they made that run in the playoffs, it was because Trent Grisham, Cronenworth, these guys were hitting. These guys were getting on base. Even I mean, most of their back end of their lineup was really the power that put them through against the Dodgers, against the Mets. Those guys just aren't working this year. And I really do think that if you don't make the playoffs and next year you don't have Snell, you don't have Hader, you need to go get guys like you need another center fielder. You need to fill out your team with not expensive players, but guys that just fill the roster. Look at the Dodgers. Yeah. Trey Turner's gone, Bellinger's gone, and they're still in first place. They're still building up. So they need to go get guys that just love to play the game, guys that can get on base, guys that can hit. But I mean, easier said than done. And relievers, obviously, but I guess easier said than done. But yeah, I don't think they'll be sellers, to be honest. It just doesn't seem like their MO. It feels like they may try and buy, and not something expensive, but try and buy something to maybe re-energize this team. But it's just not the same as last year.
Fernando, you're good at what you do, my man. We brought this man in to talk about the Chargers and Herbert's contract extension, and he just roasted the entire Padres organization. Well done, sir. Mr. Markazi, can we transition into football real quick before we get baseball? Can we go into football?
Well, by the way, we have to give him his props because he was at Petco Park. He did cover the Padres, did a fantastic story on the Padres. But yes, we had you on, and I'll just tee this up and I'll let you guys go. Amazing. We knew that they would get a deal done. 5 years, $265.5 million contract extension for Justin Herbert, making him the highest paid player in league history. So you knew that they would do this. Now, I love the fact that they did it before the first practice, before the start of training camp, get the questions out of the way, the significance of this contract, Fernando. How big was it to get this deal done before the beginning of camp?
I mean, you had to do this. I mean, and Herbert said it today. He's like, I didn't want to be this distraction. I didn't want to be the, oh, hey, when is he going to sign his contract? You knew the questions were going to happen every single time he hit the podium. And even when Brandon Staley hit the podium, the questions were going to be, but now it's out of the way. It's old news now. They're getting ready to go. It's so funny, though. Every time Justin Herbert would do something, fans would be yelling. I don't know if you guys saw, but I posted a video. Some kid asked Herbert, hey, can I have your cleat? And Justin goes, yeah, sure. And he takes it off and he gives him. Another kid's like, well, can I have the other one? And he's like, yeah, sure. And he gives him his cleats and he turns to me and he goes, I don't need them anyway. And so you just get a sense of it. The kid he just really everything that you want in a franchise quarterback. He's great with the fans. The players love him. And I wrote about this in the Sporting Tribune that he's their leader. He's their unquestioned leader. He's the guy that they're going to follow, and they believe in him. And the one thing that Herbert told us is, now I just get to go out there and play football. And that's all that he wants. He wanted the questions out of the way. He wants all that gone. Now he can just focus on playing football and obviously trying to do what Dan Fouts, Phillip Rivers, the guys before him couldn't, try and win this team their first Super Bowl ever, which, I mean, that would just put them in the upper echelon of because I mean the Chargers, I know they get a lot of knocks here and there, but one thing, they do know how to draft quarterbacks. They do know how to unravel quarterbacks. They did it with Breeze. They did it with Fouts, with Rivers. They've done it good. And now Herbert seems like he's the next in line, but they needed to get this done before training camp just to avoid distraction.
Well, since we are talking about this contract, because I do want to ask you about Kellen Moore. I think it's a fascinating move getting him to be the OC. But, you talk about Herbert saying, well, now I can finally play football. We can go back 2 years ago when the contract extension talks were happening. And they even asked the GM, Tom T, if like, hey, what's your philosophy? Because I think for a lot of fans, it's we need to take advantage of our quarterback being on that rookie contract. Tom T said that doesn't matter. He pointed at some of the years. Look at all these teams that are in the playoffs. These guys aren't the QBs of the teams that they were drafted on. So that doesn't necessarily that doesn't lock it in that you're going to be successful. You can be successful without it. So now he's going to face that because the contract extension is here, and now he has to put the team together with all that money. Although this year, I know the way the deal is structured, it's not going to affect these next 2 years. It's still going to be pretty good. But I guess long-winded. I apologize. My question is Tom T going to be here long enough to see this vision through with all the pressure on this year 3 for Staley?
I mean, there's a lot of pressure just because you've backtracked Keenan, Mike, Joey, Khalil. There's a lot of money in these players next. Like all 4 of those players next year are going to cost a combined, I think it was $120 million. Wow. I just don't. I think 2 of those guys will be here. I don't think all 4 are here. So it's going to be interesting to see who's here. But I don't know. I mean, especially with the debacle with Jacksonville and everything that's kind of happened, it's kind of hard to sense if Tom Telesco will be here. But I mean, he survived Anthony Lynn. He survived a lot of other stuff, and he's still here. So, and I think the Chargers have done a good job drafting ever since Brandon came in. I think his coaching staff has done a good job of recognizing talent and getting these guys ready. That I'm not too sure of. It's going to be interesting to see what direction they go. But to go back to what you were saying, I mean, yeah, Justin is the guy for them. I know a lot of fans. I mean, I remember, and I have receipts. A lot of fans were angry in 2020. I remember when I tweeted out Chargers are drafting Justin Herbert. And all these fans were like, no, Isaiah Simmons. Why didn't we go get Tua? What's going on? And now everybody's like, oh, yeah, we love Justin Herbert. I'm like, I have receipts on some of you folks. But really, they love Justin. The franchise loves them. And Tom Telesco did the smart move. And that's another point that you brought up. Tom was there with the Colts in 2004 or 5 when they gave Peyton Manning his contract extension. 2 years later, they win the Super Bowl. So he's seen it happen before. That's why he said, I have a blue notebook with a blue binder with how we did it with Peyton, what we did. And the Chargers, in a sense, I'm not saying they resemble that team from 2006 of the Colts, but they're pretty similar. Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne. They have some good pieces there, but now it's, can you overcome the stacked the AFC is ridiculous. And can you overcome all the different teams? And can you, like, every team has weaknesses. Like the Chiefs had weaknesses last year, but can you avoid the weaknesses and can you mask them enough to win a Super Bowl? That's going to be the huge question on the Chargers this season.
And I wanted to add on, Fernando, you hit it right on the money. The AFC, how talented it is. I mean, you have sleeper teams that could go to the Super Bowl, like Jacksonville, like Miami. People are saying the Jets, even though I don't buy it, right? I still put the Chargers above them. Denver's
you buy Miami and Jacksonville more than the Jets?
I buy Jacksonville. I think with Calvin Ridley, if he has a good year, I think the Jaguars.
Calvin Ridley.
Lawrence is that dude.
Hey, you know Calvin Ridley hasn't played a game in 2 seasons. My bad. I'm not trying. No. I'm not trying to crap on your. True. I'm just saying it's incredible that he hadn't played. He hasn't, like, he's still, like, everybody sees him as a top receiver, like top 15, 20, 25, but he hasn't played football in 2 years. That's going to be interesting in my opinion. But my bad. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. I was just saying, like, the Jets, like, the quick side note here for them, it's like Rodgers, there was a little bit of a decline last year. I know he didn't have a lot of his weapons.
He went and shut himself out for 3 days.
I know.
No lights on. He had a Waska or whatever.
Hella drugs.
Yeah.
Hella drugs.
He's on it. You know what? I wish Hard Knocks would show that. Like, going to one of his things. and
The
just
drug
like
use?
going zen and everything. I'd love to see one. They're
I
not
mean,
gonna okay. If you're not gonna show players getting cut, then show that. Show us the real Aaron Rodgers.
It's certainly possible, but my question here is more like, because there's so many good teams, like obviously the big three, the Bengals, Bills, and Chiefs are still there, right? So it's like, and plus the teams I've named, what are the expectations? Like, do we expect the Chargers to win a Super Bowl? Like, because for me, I think a successful season is getting to the divisional round.
Yeah. No, I actually see you have to run before you can, or you have to crawl before you can run. The Chargers last year were at a all pace slow, barely making it, but showing signs of crawling. I don't think that I wasn't convinced by them last year, but this year, not a lot of people are talking about them. And that's kind of what I think they kind of want. Nobody's really focused on them. Everybody's focused on, you said, the big two. The Bills, I think that just like the Undertaker in a casket match. I think that casket is starting to close. But I do think that the Chargers are one of the better teams. I'm not going to put them up there yet just because I need to see what Kellen Moore is going to look like with this offense. I saw it in practice, and again, they didn't have pads on or anything, but they were throwing down the field. They were making big throws. It seems like they're going to be a high-tempo offense, which is exactly what Justin fits. That's why Joe Lombardi seemed like he was coaching a 40-year-old quarterback with no arm strength last year, and you're kind of like, why can't you just do this with Justin Herbert? Go down the field, do more with him. But obviously now with Kellen Moore, I'd have to see more, but from them. But I do think that they should make the playoffs with all the talent that they have on this team.
Fernando, you brought up the Undertaker. We're about to get into some SummerSlam questions here in 1 second. But you brought up Kellen Moore, and I think it's fascinating. You went over Tom Telesco's history. And you could even look at Brandon Staley with becoming the defensive coordinator of the Rams, where McVay lets go of Wade Phillips, the veteran, and brings the young guy in that's unproven. And even not to say Kellen Moore isn't unproven, because he wasn't. He did incredible things in Dallas, but a veteran offensive coordinator, Staley lets him go and brings in Kellen Moore.
He's knocking on the door of being a head coach.
Exactly. And I think that it's for all the non-transactions or big moves that this team made in the offseason, I think this is going to be huge. So how do you feel just about that connection? Because we've heard some things in the offseason that the interview was like a 12-hour phone call because the energy was there, and they've just spent a lot of time because his family hasn't. Kellen Moore's family still in Dallas, so he's just been in the facility, like going over scenarios and having this toy in Herbert to play with. That's just an amazing toy to have, right?
Well, I'm just surprised that Jerry Jones let him go. Like, Jerry Jones was so adamant about, he had been grooming him in a sense to be the next head coach. Then all of a sudden you just go with Mike McCarthy, big old Mike McCarthy, and you let him go. Like, you're just like, why? Like, why would you do that? And I guess this relationship started last year when the Chargers and the Cowboys had a joint practice. Him and Kellen Moore would text each other like, hey, have a great season. You too. Hey, great game this week. And oh yeah, you guys too. Stuff like that. So definitely that's how the relationship got started. But as soon, literally, I think Kellen Moore got fired on a Sunday, and by Sunday night, he had already been the Chargers OC, named the Chargers OC. And that's because that's who they wanted to trust, a younger voice, I think, with Herbert. And Herbert had experience with him. I don't know if you guys saw, they shot a commercial together for car insurance. So it was definitely pretty funny to see the commercial and Kellen Moore and Justin in it. But it seems like the relationship is really good. Keen and Mike, Justin, all of them have raved about what this offense is going to be. That's why, in my humble opinion, I think Herbert is a guy to watch out for MVP this year. I really think he's going to light up the league this year, especially with this offense. I think Austin Eckler's numbers go down and Justin Herbert shoot up.
And listen, I can't believe it took us this long. YouTube.com/@thesportingtrib, because Fernando's not only bringing the takes in audio form, the Hawaiian shirt looks gorgeous. Before we get out of here, SummerSlam real quick, 2 quick questions. Match that you're looking forward to the most, and when does Roman's streak finally end?
2028, when he breaks Bruno Sammartino's record for the most days as the champion. No, I think Roman WrestleMania. No, I can't even say Wrestle. I think next SummerSlam. It comes to an end. I think they want him
A
to
year
pass,
more?
yeah, I think a year more. Man, he's the best thing on TV. I love.
Yeah.
You have to acknowledge your tribal chief before he comes after you. But the other match I'm excited for, anytime Dominic Mysterio is on TV, it's must watch. I want to see Dominic and Damian Priest against Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. And if you really want to piss people off, have them take the belts off of them and have Dominic Mysterio with 3 belts. That would just piss everybody off.
Latino World Order. We're not going to complain.
And that's what you want to do. You want to piss everybody off, do that. Have Dominic Mysterio with 3 championships, and that'll really tick people off. But definitely, I'm excited for SummerSlam. I think it's going to be a great WWE's done a great job this year in pay-per-views. Every one of them has been exciting and interesting. So, yeah.
Love it. And by the way, and I know we mentioned this before, we'll continue to do so. Our guy, Adrian Hernandez, will be there in Detroit for WWE SummerSlam, bringing you all the hottest interviews and whatnot. We'll have a recap of the Sporting Tribune. Fernando, we'll have you back on next week, my friend. That's all the time we have for today. Let's do it again tomorrow. Until then, this is Arash Markazi saying stay safe and stay healthy.